Today on the YouTube channel, we're going to talk about isolation and hermit mode, the importance of this, and I'll give you some personal experience. So, first off, let's go and define hermit mode. What is hermit mode? So, in tarot, they have the hermit. Normally, a hermit is someone who stays to themselves, um, who likes to be alone, but who is also very intuitive and likes to search for knowledge, likes to ask questions and then find the answers to the questions. That's why in tarot, the hermit has a staff, a cloak. He's wearing a cloak and he has a lantern. He shines the lantern, which he's in search for information. So, hermit mode, when does that start? It's kind of not really easy question to answer. It can start at different times for different people, but it's mostly when you go within. A lot of it is to go within. You have questions. Maybe this could be for men around puberty, so maybe like around 12, younger, a little bit younger, a little bit older, but around there, 12. That's when you could go within and ask a lot of questions. Things are changing. You're growing into a young man and you're entering into new spaces, um, like I think intermediate, high school around there. So going to new environments, and you might be questioning how you're supposed to operate in those environments, or what are like the social rules and what is might be going on behind the scenes. So hermit mode is when you kind of go within, you spend some time on your own, um, and you normally would meditate. It doesn't have to be actually meditating where you're doing a ritualistic practice of sitting down or lying down, closing your eyes, and clearing your mind, but it's symbolic of kind of going within and asking questions and trying to find these questions. So for me, um, I was already practicing meditation, not to the, I guess, level I am now, but I was practicing meditation. I would use it for sports to get into the zone, to focus. Even if I was doing homework or had some type of problem I was trying to get through, I would use meditation. My emotional regulation is obviously a lot better. I'm a lot older, so I'm able to see triggers and things like that. So it's a lot different now. But during that time, when I was younger, in my younger days, I would have to train myself to either sit still and actually meditate or lie down and meditate and ask questions. Maybe, for example, what am I supposed to do right now? I would ask that to God. I would ask that to my ancestors. I may not get the answer right then and there, but I would just keep meditating over a span of maybe a week or a couple of days, and eventually an answer or a sign will come to me. It might be I meet someone and they bring up a conversation and that happens to trigger something, or they say a particular phrase or answer, and that's what I was looking for. Or it could be in dreams, maybe a memory or kind of like a vision of guidance. But also, around that time, I was reading a lot. So in hermit mode, you're searching for information. This could be through reading, reading books. I read a lot of books, especially psychology, self help. That's why I'm a life coach and a mentor. From a young age, I was always in psychology, try to figure out why I was doing the things I was doing, habits, also sociology as well. So those are just my interests. Science based, I always like science. But yeah, read books, mentors, maybe actual people. As I got older, I knew psychiatrists, I knew, I would say scientists a little bit, and um, different experiments. That's kind of what it is too, is experimenting, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, getting a general basis of how to navigate, but also the internet. So 1992, that's kind of when the internet came out. So like I said, 12, the internet had already been out for a while, and things were moving along. Um, Definitely in the early stages of internet, but it was useful. There's you don't have to go to the library and look up books or even maybe topics that you're not really open about. So you're on your own searching for information. That's definitely some things you do, or even like conspiracy theories. I think around that age, I was definitely into more of like the food and like the water. Being in the gate program, that kind of uh, I would say opened my eyes a little bit more. That's where I got more into the psychology, and then went down the rabbit hole of what is that now? Damn, I lost my train of thought. Oh, conspiracy theories. Yeah, so went down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, um, and all like occult knowledge, esoteric. So I started learning about that manifestation, and then, like I said, I was just experimenting. Like, okay, what works, what doesn't work, and then I kind of had a baseline and just built off of that. Um, for extroverts, so I define an extrovert as someone who gains energy from being around other people. And then an introvert would be the opposite. So introvert would be someone who recharges and gains energy from being alone. Um, when I was younger, I was a mix. I mean, everyone is not fully introvert or fully extrovert for the most part. You're either lean towards more one way, and then depending on the situation, you might change. I was, for the most part, extroverted, and then I would go introverted as well, just to do my own research and kind of take a break from uh, all of the sensory perceptions. I was very influenced by energy, so I kind of noticed that younger, sensory overload was kind of like a thing, especially for mental and emotional like regulation. So that's where like the meditation came in, and different techniques to kind of see what is going on. That's kind of another reason I got into psychology and sociology, is to understand myself better, understand my body, my mind, why am I making certain decisions. And then I took that and kind of inverted the lens. So instead of looking at myself, whatever I learned from that, I used it on the world, and I was able to kind of psychoanalyze people. Um, I know it's not good to psychoanalyze everyone, but it's, you tend to see patterns, and then you'll know why people do certain things, and that can be very isolating as well, because if you're on a path of spirituality or even religious, when everyone is growing up, we're kind of into different cliques and we're trying to solidify our place into our social circle. So that time you could be bouncing around social circles and getting to learn the different rules in each circle. And then also staying true to yourself, I mean, there is a, they're ringing in my ear right now. There is uh, I lost my train of thought again. Damn. I, the ringing in the ear is wild. That's a sign for me, is maybe something to do with social circles and the rules that go along with each of those. So I might have to look into that a little bit later. But isolating. It can be isolating just because um you might not necessarily fit into one, or because you're in different groups, you may carry those characteristics into other groups, whereas other people, they're more fall into one group. So uh they may just gel more with those people, and then if your beliefs kind of don't really match up all the way, then it can create a clash, and you may have conflict within the group, and you might isolate yourself. um Isolation is good for the most part if you're trying to solve a conflict on your own. I mean, of course, if you're have conflict with other people, it's best to work it out and communicate it. But sometimes you do need a little bit of time alone to kind of fully process, especially if emotions are high and you're kind of jumble minded, to recalibrate your nervous system, because your emotions and nervous system can become hijacked by a narcissist. I'll just use that as an example. Pretty much by anyone. If you're in a fight or flight response, there's other ones too. Um, Freeze, appease. Those things are learned in childhood, and it's hard to break. I mean, it can be done, but it's a long process, and you have to know your triggers. But anyway, yeah, the isolation is good to kind of step away from things and gather your thoughts and come to a decision on what's next. But then there's also the other side of isolation where it's kind of forced, like a rejection, where a lot of people say rejection is protection from God. Um, I would agree with that. It's not always a good feeling, You want to fit in with your peers or even your friends, so being rejected by them is not a good feeling, But um, when I kind of look back, like when I would be pushed away from some of my friends or even groups, I kind of noticed that it did work out for the better. Um, I wasn't really supposed to be in that group. I mean, there was a lot of negative influences. Um, but I was doing things as well too, but I always tried to remain kind of true to myself. Like, is this something I would want someone to do to me? And then that might have put me in a reactive mode because someone had done something to me and I felt some kind of way, but I wasn't fully expressing verbally um, what had affected me. So then sometimes I would lash out. That was something I definitely had to work on. Verbalizing, communicating, getting better at expressing myself. I think that was for me learned as a child. Like that was kind of conditioning. So that's something I had to break away from. But yeah, On a, I would say a wide scale. So 2020, um, like COVID-19 was a forced hermit mode. Everybody was, forced to stay home. You had to be, what was it? I think like 6 feet away from others. You had to wear a mask. So it was a forced isolation worldwide, which I think is a good thing. Worldwide, it was a feminine, um, nurturing time. Like going within is very, it's a feminine aspect. It's intuitive, is kind of feminine. So you're nurturing yourself, going within. That's when people started questioning the government. I mean, that wasn't like the first time people were questioning the government and things of that nature, but on the scale that uh, my generation, I'm a millennial, my generation had seen, that was one of the first times. And a lot of older people in other generations, that's never happened before. So mm, at that time, they didn't really think that was possible. Something like that was possible. But that was, I think, good if you used it in the right way. I know a lot of people, they got divorced. They ended up staying home with their partner and they realized it wasn't a good fit. So they got divorced. People lost jobs. I know I got laid off. Um, that wasn't the first time I got laid off from a job, so I had already gone through that. I think that's a good experience to go through. I know a lot of people, they don't want to get laid off, but for me, I learned that I was perfectly fine not working, because I had a little nest egg of money that I could sit on for a little while. And then I was actually able to, during that time, travel around, do some things I wanted to do. Um, Went into like a mini hermit mode where I think I took a few online classes or some courses and things like that. So I was, the time was definitely used well. It wasn't just wasted. So going back to COVID, that's what I think that time was for, is like a hermit mode. Ask questions, kind of recalibrate your life. Like, where are you? And then bringing it full circle is a lot of people died. So it was supposed to show you how precious life is, especially being like a millennial. Um, you're kind of established already, or you're kind of getting established. So it's, are you doing what you want to do? Are you going down the right path? Questions like that. Is this relationship a long term thing, or is it just kind of for now? So those are some of the things I learned during COVID. I was also, I think, coming out of Jupiter's return. If you're into astrology, if not, you can look it up. So it's definitely learning life lessons. And then I think during COVID, or maybe could have been before, right after, was my Saturn's return. So it was a very pivotal time in my life, learning a lot of life lessons, solidifying um, my core identity, letting things go that I no longer needed. They served its purpose, and I was able to move on. So that's really what a hermit mode is um, it's like a time of kind of letting go. It's like a winter. Um, things let go, they die off. Whatever's not serving you is being let go, and you kind of transform into a new person, a new perspective. At least that's the goal of a hermit mode, is to gain some type of clarity. Uh, I know that's normally what happens for me. I'm an introvert, so um, I go within a lot, and I spend time alone, especially in nature, to rejuvenate my energy. Um, I lost my train of thought again. I was gonna talk about, so what was I saying? Introvert, um, COVID. Well, anyway, yeah. That's kind of what COVID was for. Um, I think for my generation, it was a time to hermit mode, and then if you identify as chosen, you ascended, especially during the Jupiter's and Saturn's return. Those are normally ascension times because just of the age and the lessons that you're supposed to learn. So I stepped more into my spiritual gifts, um, and deepened my connection with God and my ancestors. So those are a lot of things that happen during isolation, um, and hermit mode. I mean, that's only if you use the time wisely, correctly. I know other people, they might not, they might go into addictions or kind of self-sabotage behavior, which is not bad as long as it's not for long periods of time. It's like maybe a morning, like you're sad or whatever, depressed, maybe for like a couple weeks, maybe a month. Like, okay, like that's, I would say, on the longer end. Some people it's months, years, but hopefully you're progressing on your journey to the point where you're catching these patterns, these cycles a lot earlier, so you're able to adjust correctly. Um, I know a lot of people, they kind of didn't recover from COVID in terms of getting back to socializing. Now it's kind of been, I would say, maybe 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years since COVID had finished. I would say kind of fully. So 2026, yeah, 3 years. Um, let's see. So things are kind of slowly getting back to normal. But coming out of the hermit mode, you're okay with being by yourself. So going back into situations that were kind of just comforting you, they weren't really benefiting you, you're not learning, you probably won't go back into those situations again, the same person that you were before. So people are noticing that as well. I know, they're saying something just feels off with people. It's not the same. I mean, it's not going to be the same after a worldwide event like that. And hopefully the awakening that came from that, I don't think I would want it to go back for me, especially just because that was an ascension period for me. So, like I said, it solidified a lot of things for me. But that's pretty much it for hermit mode and isolation. Uh, and it can be purposeful. Like, I know sometimes I will isolate myself to kind of just think, like, okay, what is going on? Especially if it's a rough time, or maybe a little bit confused on a situation, like what is really going on. Like I said about um, psychoanalysis and sociology. So in those terms, like what is going on and how can I navigate the situation to have it be an advantage for me. That's another thing too about perspective shifts. I always try to look at things as, what can I learn from this and how can I gain an advantage from this. So it's a good perspective to have. It shifted my reality for sure in terms of my connection with God and even just trusting myself. So yeah, I mean, if you have any questions about it, and I would say probably for the past kind of a while, like for the past 10 years, I've kind of been in a hermit mode, more just exploring the world, Learning a lot about myself, how I interact with others, and then how other people see me has changed now that I'm more secure with myself and more confident in like my spiritual gifts and things of that nature. So uh, the environment has to change. I mean, if you change and then you're setting up boundaries, the environment has to change because either people are gonna kind of fall in line with your boundaries or they're gonna be cut out. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your peace, your sanity. For empaths, that's kind of hard because they're used to giving. They always want to help other people. But at the end of the day, it's your peace, it's your sanity. You have to protect that. And to heal anyone else, you have to heal yourself. You have to be 100%. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much it for hermit mode and isolation. So, if you're interested in any of the services I offer, DM me and always be on the lookout for other content as well. I'll be posting on the tarot channel too. So if you like tarot, it's Kahuna Tarot. My Facebook, I post links of videos from my YouTube on there. So look at my Facebook as well. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.